What's up, Fortnite fam? I'm hanging out with our best friend Sundown and of course ShyoWager. Welcome to the first ever FNCS pre-show. So heading into week number 2, we're going to talk about things up and coming in the FNCS, trios we want to watch, and some cool landing spots for everyone. So you guys know me, I'm Zeke. Sundown, if you want to say hello.
What's up, everyone? I'm Sundown, and then we're joined here by the amazing man with the plan, ShyoWager. Shy, how you doing today?
I'm doing great today. Hyped up to talk about everything coming up for week 2, what happened in week 1. It's going to be an amazing pre-show.
Woo! Excited to have you. All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty. So I know me and Bala, we took a look at that VOD review. We broke down Letwick, Flexi, and Dementos. For me, they are very scary. Very interesting to do a trio to watch. And I think if they can execute the way they did in that VOD review, I think they could really bring some heat in EU this weekend. Cam, maybe what's a trio from your perspective to keep an eye on?
I think that's a pretty solid one to keep an eye on, but given they got first, I think a lot of people are going to be keeping an eye on them. They averaged, I think it was 2.6 was the average placement across their games, which is just an incredible value, particularly when 6,000 of the best trios were competing in Europe. There are two different trios who I think are worth kind of keeping an eye on, particularly if you're going through doing ROD reviews and are looking for improvements from last week to this week. The first will stay in EU. Crew, Chapix, and Beehive, that entire Swedish cohort up there, like they know how to play. They're very good. They're very aggressive. They dropped a lot of placement points just missing out on kind of the first ticks, not hitting top 8, not hitting top 4. But if they're able to clean up those, I think they have some of the kind of like highest potential in terms of their ceiling in elimination power. So being able to put that together, really interesting. I think they were 13th last week. And then out of Brazil, keeping an eye on Toxic Zone and the other King. They were able to get 5th. We're close there. We saw King during the World Cup just fly around and take everyone by storm, but it's going to take kind of another level to elevate that because there is, I don't want to say less room for individual skill expression in trios, but it takes those individual moments and makes it that much harder to pull off because every single one of those circumstances, it's not just your skill against the person across from you, it's you and their two teammates. So really interested to see how those trios in particular, because they are relatively newly formed, are able to step up from week to week.
Shy?
For me personally, I have like 2 different types of attitudes to look out in terms of trios. So the people who've already made it, the tops of each reasons. For me in OCE, Jesse, Jordan, and Volux, these guys, their comms, the way they actually tarp up and clutch up when one person or one cog in the wheel kind of gets shaken loose, kind of keep up for each other is amazing. The clutches endgame are dope too. Click, Spades, and Crims as well in NAEs are the same way. People who have won, we want to see if they can keep winning, what their attitudes are like from a confidence standpoint. Then they're the other ones who are like teetering on the edge. We've got Bucky, Animal, and Aspect who have an insane way to play the game. I think they were 1 win behind from actually qualifying. They lost, I think, a tiebreaker for 8th, which is sad, but at the same time, the fuel behind them and what's going on behind them is going to be amazing to see in these coming weeks. They're one of the top trios for me to qual up. So I'm excited to see the different perspectives of winners keeping their spot and people who yet want to qualify, get those top prizes and the top 8 for the grand finals coming up as well.
I think another trio that came to mind was actually the X2 twins, Jesse and Jordan, and Volks. I mean, the split of 7 matches played, 5 victory royales.
That's pretty good.
It's insane.
Yeah, like we said, their average placement was 1.57. Was the best in the entirety of the FNCS week 1.
That mental is definitely going to creep up too because before everyone's kind of used to like that 10-week format. Literally 2 months and a few more weeks to it's a nice easy pace in the beginning, but like we're 1/5 of the way done. Getting into the second 5th, we're almost halfway. So like there's no time to dilly dally. You gotta be on your stuff. You gotta be grinding literally every day properly, mentally, physically, everything.
Next up, and to wrap things up, why don't we talk about maybe just a few drop spots that we think really benefit trios? What do you guys think? Have you guys had your eye on some?
I've been looking at a couple, but I'll let Shy open this one up.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think we all know the best one. It's been going around Twitter. It's been going around my dad's emails. Apparently, he doesn't play Fortnite. He knows about it. Retail Row is the king of drop spots right now with all the launch pads, the gold weapons, all the loot, and apparently now all the trios who land there so contested all the time that the people who usually land there are now landing other places and rotating in to clean up. Because it's that hectic. It's that much of a death match. It's like the old Tilted Towers of season 5, 6, where everyone just landed there, wanted to do whatever they wanted to do, and then get out of the game. So I think that is the strongest drop spot at the moment, just with all the loot that comes in with the zombies, the extra shield, ammo, all the mats available, and old retail as well. There's metal, brick, wood, everything is there for you to get. Most contested spot and the best one on the map, in my opinion.
So I agree with you there in terms of just like the raw quality of loot, but like as we've been seeing, the like if you're able to win retail consistently through the like 4 or 5 teams that are there, awesome, dope, but not everyone is as good as Benji, Mitro, and Mongrel, right? And we even saw there the one time they lose the fight. Granted, Mitro misplayed, right? Like they should have had that and should have been outclassed and it would have been fine and probably could have been their W. But like you're banking on the fact that not only are you able to put up with the cube monsters on like the harassment there and you'll have time to get the loot, but then you're also better than the other teams who are there trying to get the loot and everyone who's trying to come and rotate through. I'm a big proponent of finding rotations that you're able to get consistent gameplay off and then get loot paths that aren't, I don't want to say aren't reliant on RNG, but you're able to kind of pivot your choices as you go through. So it's like, oh, no driftboard spawned here. Well, this drop spot isn't completely muffed because I have zip lines and I can rotate up the pressure plant. That's going to lead me into what my favorite drop spot is right now for trios is it's the split drop spot up at Hot Springs where the little fishy is, the science area that's just to the right of it, and then the science outpost that is to the left. There is, I believe, there's a ton in the observatories to the right. In between that and Sunny Steps, there's like 8 or 9 driftboard spawns that are in there.
Yep.
There's one driftboard spawn and a vending spawn down by the hot springs. There's 4 chest spawns between the fish and the hot springs, as well as the dry wood, which is about 15 wood per swing, so you can actually get 500 wood right in that area. And as you continue going west, there is another 500 little like brick mine that you can end up hitting up there that has 3 possible chest spawns up there and a bunch of floor wood and an additional driftboard. And the benefit here is with all the driftboard spots and how spread out you are, there's decent kind of ways you can break the lines of fire. So if you do get caught out, you're able to kind of regroup and go together. But as long as you're not getting like a far southwest zone, you can pretty much rotate everywhere moderately safety without crossing by these super major loop paths. And I think this is a key thing for trios, and we've seen this be established in the VOD review ShyoWager and I did for Brazil. This team took a very similar loop path, moved north, moved into pressure plant, and then pressure allows you to kind of use that glider to rotate around. And we've seen so many of the Twitter posts out there being like, oh, here were all 7 of my zones today, and you see they're across the map. If you're able to eliminate kind of one of those factors, right, and you know on your drop spot that even if the zone pulls as far as possible away, that we're going to be able to comfortably rotate because of where we are and because of the stuff that is on the map, then that for me allows you to get into a rhythm and allows you to play the game. Whereas if you're constantly contesting retail, or I don't think anybody in their right mind right now is contesting Tilted Town when all of this is going on, but like contesting one of those spots where there is, you know, there's going to be good loot, but you know there is going to be action. Like I just take that inconsistency, take that variable away, get yourself established in the early game, and as we say all the time, play for late, particularly in trios. Like if you're not winning matches, you're not going to take that top spot home. And most importantly, most of these guys who are qualifying are winning at least a match. We aren't really seeing trios qualify through without taking a victory royale at some point. And if you're not consistently making late games, that's not going to happen.
Well, I think that about wraps up the video. Do you want to get some final words before we sign off? Starting with you, Sundown.
Final words, I'm excited to see who is able to step up their game. There were so many different players who said, you know what, my time will come after the World Cup. I didn't make it there, but I'm looking to continue going for it. And who is able to put in the practice, who is able to battle through all of the adversity and still come out on top? Because you would think with all the changes and everything going through, we're not seeing the same names. But it's the same names and the same players who are occupying it. We talked about how in every one of those regions is the same 5 to 10 teams who are always up there. Granted, there are a couple who are challenging up there, but with trios in particular, there is a hard line of it's like, hey, you must be this tall to be one of the best in the region, and it's being very clear. I'm interested to see who's able to challenge and kind of buck that trend and really establish it. Who is able to kind of man up from week 1 to week 2, and then who's also able to keep their level the same.
What about you, Shy?
Yeah, for me, it's more of that second point to keep the level the same. I'm thinking about all the old heads who are now the week 1 champs. I just want them to keep their spot. They've had a taste of that prize pool, a taste of success, but every single time things happen, it gets shaken up. The biggest thing as well I wanted to mention earlier was some duos qualified very last second, switching up their partners. The whole consistency point thing, right? I'm trying to see how that plays out. The risk people are going to take to shoot for top 8 or try to better their trio, because that's never kind of been seen in Fortnite. We've had a culture of kind of, you're not working out, that's fine, it's okay, leave on good terms, I'll find a new partner. But now it's a 3-man effort to better each and every person, learn every single role if you want to do it the most consistent way. I'm just excited to see the options and how people hold their ground and once again take it as well.
That's right. Well, thank you guys so much for hanging out. Shy, thank you. Sundown, thank you as well. Best of luck to everyone participating this weekend in week number 2 of the FNCS. And of course, we can't wait to see you guys on the battle bus. Till next time.
Beep, beep.